When my mom was just barely a mom with 2 babies, my sister and I, she and her former college roommate lived in the same apartment complex. This friend had a daughter just my age, and they traded babysitting all the time. On one of her babysitting turns, my mom had just finished all of the laundry. This involved somehow toting the clothes and 2 babies about a block away to the laundry facility. No small feat. I'm going to defer to my mom to tell the rest of the story.
I had all this clean laundry that I finally got done before I started babysitting this little girl, and had it all in the one bedroom. And so I had a baby, and I was doing something with the baby, and the 2 1.5-year-old babies were just playing in the bedroom. Meaning you, and this girl that I was babysitting, Tara. And she was a darling little girl, but she found my Vaseline. And she started dipping her whole hand into the Vaseline, and then she just didn't like the feel of it, so she touched anything that was close. She just took all of my laundry and just rubbed Vaseline all over my whites, all over my coloreds.
Oh my
I had Vaseline everywhere in there. She didn't get it on the carpet or on the house. It was just the laundry
that you just finished taking.
Yeah. Oh man. I was just feeling so upset that I decided to make a list of all the things I hate about my life. And I wrote, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. I had a full page, and the longer the list got, the more
the
depressed
easier it was to fill.
Oh yeah, I just kept adding on. But when I got finished, I didn't feel like there was any reason to live. I mean, it was so depressing to look at that list, and I just melted down and started bawling. And I decided never, ever, ever, ever to make a list like that again. And so I started to write things that I like about my life, and I wrote it, one by one, trying to think of things that was positive, and I got myself out of the doldrums.
This is the How She Moms podcast, where we talk about how different moms solve the same problems. I'm Whitney Archibald, a mother of 5 kids myself. I collect ideas so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. I'm guessing that by this point in the summer, we can all relate to my mom and her Vaseline story. Whatever stage you're in, it's hard. And there are a lot of things to hate. But, as my mom quickly realized, it can make the hard things harder if we're always dwelling on them. Instead, today, we're going to focus on the things we love. One thing I've noticed is that it's sometimes easier to think of things to add to the things I love list when you're looking backwards or forwards, thinking about what you miss from past stages, or what you look forward to in future stages. So I asked my Instagram readers what they loved, and I came up with my own list as well. Then I asked my mother and mother-in-law for their lists. This was actually the best part about preparing for this episode, and I encourage you all to ask your moms and mother-in-laws, or any other special moms in your lives, what they loved in each stage. I treasure their responses. So without further ado, here is a list of some of the things to love in each stage of motherhood. The goal here is for you to be able to look at your own stage from a different perspective to make sure you don't take these lovable things for granted. Of course, we're dealing in generalizations here, and many of the things on these lists won't even apply to you, but you can use them as a jumping-off point for your own list. So we're going to start with babies, and obviously there are a lot of things to love about raising babies. For one, they have a short list of needs, and for the most part, you know how to provide them. That's not to say it's easy to provide them. It's a physical and emotional challenge, of course. But barring special medical needs, the checklist of needs themselves is short. Food, sleep, diaper change, burp, snuggle, or bounce. They're not yet asking for a specific pink cup, a ride to their friend's house, or a smartphone. They're very portable. They don't intentionally cause problems. Of course, they're adorable and delightful with their little smiles, their fat baby hands, and their rubber band wrists. They still take naps, and you have a lot more volunteers who want to hold them or help you in some way. And then there's all the firsts, the smiles, the giggles, the first words, first foods, walking, discovering toys, seeing what they do when you put their little feet on the grass for the first time and when they dig their toes into the sand. And then, of course, there's the smell and having them fall asleep on you with their soft skin, rocking them to sleep, There's nothing like those completely trusting and adoring looks that your baby gives while you're holding them or nursing them. They're grabbing on your finger and they just trust you so implicitly. My friend Molly Liggett says that she misses having a nursing baby stop and smile at her while the milk sprays all over their faces. Katie Smith says, I miss having things nicely under my control like I did when I had toddlers and babies. I miss the routine and organization because there weren't so many big people in and out of things. I miss feeling like I made an impact on my kiddos. As they got older, it's harder to see your influence. Now let's talk toddlers. I'm freshly out of the toddler stage myself, and there is plenty to miss, that's for sure. They're discovering new things every day and meeting them with such delight. Also, it's the first time when you start really getting a glimpse into what their personalities are going to be. First of all, they can actually speak words, so you know what's going on in their heads, and they're learning how to communicate. You get to watch them learn how to pretend and figure out how to play at a playground. You sing songs with them, you read books with them. And then, of course, there's the giggles and the cuddles. Plus, they just really want to spend time with you. Jessica Stevens couldn't wait to go to the store by herself when she had toddlers. But now that she has teenagers, she has to bribe a kid to come with her so she doesn't have to go alone. Then you get to the preschool stage. I'm currently raising my final preschooler, and I am eating it up. They can play simple board games and card games, and they create these elaborate worlds while they're playing. I also love when they start playing with their friends instead of around them. Having a friend over can almost be like having a babysitter at this age. And it's so fun to listen to them and watch them play and hear their funny conversations. I love reading to them at this age because they're getting it and they ask questions and they respond. And even better is listening to their made-up stories. It's so fun to help them figure out all these new skills like creating art, using scissors, using crayons, even getting themselves dressed, and just how proud they are as they master each new skill. They're so excited to learn new things, and their quirky personalities really start to show. My mom said, I loved pointing out things to make the little kids laugh and singing songs that made them laugh. I really enjoyed cultivating a sense of humor in the little ones. Ariana Field said that she loves age 4 to 6 because they're so loving and curious, but also big enough to be independent too. And Kelly Archibald, my sister-in-law, says, I miss the simplicity of having little ones that were totally good with our outing of the day being going to the grocery store or the library. And of course, at the preschool stage, you're finally out of diapers. The beauty of that can't be emphasized enough. Since we're on the topic, it's a good time to talk about our sponsor, Lucky and Me. How many times have you taken a gamble on a sealed package of underwear from a department store, the kind plastered with cartoon characters? I try to get my kids to pick the plainest, least garish design, but I usually cave to some hideous print that he or she just can't live without. After all, I figure, who's going to see it? Then, a few weeks later, the beloved, ugly underwear is stretched out, saggy and droopy, and can't be all that comfortable. And because I have a little one who thinks it's hilarious to run around in his skivvies, the whole neighborhood ends up seeing it anyway. Enter Lucky and Me, a children's clothing company that makes underwear that's both comfortable and cute. They're made of soft organic cotton, and they don't sag or wedge, even after multiple washings. I love them, and my kids love them. In fact, I need to order some more because suddenly they don't want to wear their old saggy underwear anymore. Lucky and Me is offering How She Moms listeners 25% off if you use the offer code HOW25 at luckyandme.com. The next stage we're going to talk about is elementary school kids. First of all, it's so fun to watch reading finally click for them, whatever age that might be. It's fun reading chapter books together and having a little deeper conversations about actual concepts. It's really fun to be able to go on hikes where no one needs to be carried and to watch their emerging personalities and individual interests. It's so fun to go to events where the kids can show off their talents and skills like piano recitals, baseball games, soccer games, dance recitals, and their little school plays. And I'm not going to lie, it's also nice to send them off to school and get some time for yourself. My mom, again, says that she loves this age because they can sing along and learn to harmonize with one another. And this gives a child great confidence and makes being in the car more tolerable. We definitely sang a lot on road trips. Speaking of road trips, Lindsay is looking forward to these elementary years because She's excited for family road trips without a baby or toddler screaming the entire time. And then we have tweens. I think tweens get a bad rap. They are starting to experience those ups and downs of emotions, but there are a lot of exciting things about raising tweens. The sweetest thing is watching them negotiate that weird space between being a kid and being a teenager. I love watching the times that they relax and just let themselves be kids. It's also really fun to watch them take chances outside their comfort zones and to try and figure out who they really are. They're really starting to figure out their talents and maybe what they're not so good at. You also start to see the payoff with long-term things like piano lessons and teaching them to do chores. They're actually helpful in the kitchen and around the house. This is also a chance to see that they really can do hard things, seeing what they're capable of rising above, because we've all been there in those middle school years. There's a lot to rise above. It's fun to cheer on their little successes and watch them make progress. And oh, the awkwardness. There's something very sweet and adorable about the awkwardness and watching them in social situations, but then to also see them overcome some of those and come out okay. This is where you really start to get a glimpse of their future selves. They can do most things by themselves, and they're starting to be self-directed. Again, back to my mom, she said, "I love talking about the things that happened in school and with friends. I was lucky to have kids that loved to chat. If one of the kids became sullen and quiet, I would take them in the car until they surrendered and began spilling the reasons for their self-seclusion. I was a world-class spy." Yes, she was. And then we have the teenage years. One of my favorite people to talk to about teens is my friend Kristen Duke, who hosts a podcast for teens called Fist Bump, among other podcasts and blogs. She told me the story of meeting a mom and daughter in the grocery store line. In the course of their conversation, the mom said, "Oh, we're almost to the teenage years. We'll see if we survive that." Kristen quickly jumped in to say, "The teen years are my favorite." She then listed all the things she loves about raising teens: their sense of humor, their intelligence, their independence. Kristen has become something of a public relations specialist for teens. In fact, I'll include a link in my show notes to a fabulous blog post and video about treating teenagers with respect. Many of the moms I talked to said the very same thing about how fun it is to see their sense of humor develop and how they're able to have such deep intellectual conversations. They also talk about having a house full of fun and friends, even though they'll eat you out of house and home. It's also fun to see them actually pass you up in some things and to really excel. They write interesting papers for school and they have big ideas. They're self-directed, they're capable. And then there's all those milestones like dances and first jobs. You get to relive some of the fun high school times. It's fun to watch them joke around and interact with their friends. There are lots of important firsts, like first jobs, first dates, first time driving, all of those things. I started seeing that they were going to be good adults, even better than me. We're even going to go as far as to talk about what to love about when your kids are adults. I obviously don't have experience with this, but the moms I talked to said it's fun to watch them make big life choices, like what careers they choose, who they'll marry. They say it's really fun to watch them fall in love. It's also fun to develop more of a friendship with them. And then eventually, it's fun to see what good parents they become. And of course, there's the playing with grandchildren and watching grandchildren play with one another. And then there's the implications for you when your kids are all adults. You have an empty nest and you can rediscover your hobbies, interests, and your spouse. She said, my mother said, "I love getting together with my children and soaking in their colorful personalities. If I need a laugh, I just text my kids about something. It's bound to evoke a hilarious retort from one or more of them." My mother-in-law said, "It's so fun when your kids become adults because you get to start learning from them. I learned from watching their relationships how to improve my own. It helps me to remember that we were once a young couple." All of these lists are by no means comprehensive. I intended them to be a jumping-off point for you to think about your own lists, what you miss about the stages you've passed, what you're looking forward to in the stages to come, and yes, of course, what you shouldn't be taking for granted in your current stage. These lists obviously paint a rosy picture of motherhood. That was the whole point. And many of these things won't apply to you or describe your motherhood experience. One of my favorite descriptions about motherhood is also a book title, All Joy and No Fun. On a side note, you should check out that book by Jennifer Senior. It's one of my favorite books about parenting. Day-to-day parenting is hard. But the joys that come along with it, like the ones I listed in this episode, make all the Vaseline cleanup, bottom wiping, sleepless nights, back talk, and tantrums worth the pain. Thank you for listening to the How She Moms podcast. If you like the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you'd head over to iTunes and leave a review to help more people find it. And tell your friends. You can find more articles, profiles of how different moms approach different topics, and a list of some of my upcoming topics at howshemoms.com. And I'd love to know how you mom. If you'd like to contribute your ideas to this community, you can email me at whitney@howshemoms.com. And you can follow me at Instagram and on Pinterest at howshemoms. Special thanks to my own mom, Susan Singley, for recording the theme music to my podcast. She played this song often as I was growing up, and to me, it's part of the soundtrack of motherhood.